Hello, good day everyone, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install Windows Server 2019. Now it is recommended that you install a tool called Daemon Tools Lite, which is essentially a program that allows us to mount an ISO image to an optical disk that will be used for booting purposes inside of VirtualBox. So first things first, let us install the aforementioned Daemon Tools Lite. So just input in your search bar on any web browser Daemon Tools Lite. Tools Lite, just as is, and click on the first most relevant link. Now click on the free one. Now the free one have some limitations, but we fall in line with those limitations, so we should be fine. All we are trying to do with this is just mount an ISO image to an optical drive. Okay, so just click download and go through the familiar downloading the executables. This will come into play after we have downloaded our ISO. Now secondly, what I would like you all to do is download Oracle VirtualBox. What Oracle VirtualBox is, it is essentially a way in which we can emulate an OS without having to uninstall our native OS to our system. So input Oracle VB into the search bar and click on the first result. Now I already did this, so I do not have to go and replicate the downloading process, but it should be familiar to you. Just download and run the executable. Okay, so now after you have finished installing Oracle VirtualBox, what you would want to do is install an evaluation copy of Microsoft Windows Server 2019. Now there's a let's say catch with this, right? This would only last for about, let's say, 90 to 180 days. So if you wanted to go beyond that period, you would have to find other means of acquiring ISOs. And let's just say the internet is pretty resourceful and very broad in scope, so most likely there are other ways to acquire ISOs, but this is just an alternative method if you wanted the quote-unquote clean route. Okay, so step 4 is launch Daemon Tools Lite. So let me just back off and launch it. Right, just launch as regular. Now first things first, you should go into catalog, right? So now what we are doing is we are mounting an ISO image. That ISO image would be the ISO file we have downloaded earlier, the evaluation copy of Windows 2019, and we are mounting that onto a virtual disk, right? So we can use that now in VirtualBox to boot up our operating system. Okay, so now what you have to do is click the add icon, right? And just look for where you stored your ISO file. For me, it is in the downloads category. So click this and click open, right? Now it is open. Now what we have to do is right click and mount. Now this would mount your image to a virtual disk, right? So as you can see, it is mounted to drive D, right? Now we can eject it, but we are not going to do that for now. Okay, so that is it. We have mounted our ISO. Now we have to move on to Oracle VirtualBox and just show the setup process in there. Okay, so now for step 5, launch Oracle VirtualBox, and as soon as you get to the main menu, click on new, and we have to create a server essentially, right? So since we have Microsoft Windows 2019, we are just going to name our server 2019, and also you will come here and just pick Windows 2019 64-bit, right? And let's just allocate some memory, probably just 2 GB. You could scale according to your device. My device has about 8 GB, which says about 7 point something is actually usable, right? And now we go onto hard disk and we click on create a virtual disk now, right? So press create, and let's just allocate 50 gigs. Seems to be a little too much for me, so let's just allocate about 20 gigs, right? And leave these options as is, right? Dynamically allocated or fixed size, depending on your drive capacity. You could go for the alternative option, which is fixed size, but I'll just leave it as dynamically allocated. It doesn't really matter, okay? Right, so we have created our server, but there are further optimizations in the settings that we have to do in order to get this running and actually put in the operating system we have downloaded. Okay, so first things first, go into system, right, and just uncheck floppy because we will not be using that medium right now. Make sure optical is first in the boot order followed by hard disk, okay? Because remember, we have mounted our operating system to a virtual drive, okay? So just make sure it is first in the boot order followed by the hard drive. Now second, go into storage and just remove any empty storage attributes. So just remove this attachment here and just yes, move. So now what we have to do now is we have controller SATA set up. So now we have to add, right? We have to add an optical disk, which for me it will be it is already here, right? But for you, you may have to add it here and go into your settings and just click on the one you have mounted to your drive, okay? So for me, it will be this one right here, and we have it, we'll just choose it right here, okay? So, and this is a very important step, but mine seems to be already done. But if yours isn't done, just look at the hard disk and look at the port number. Just make sure the disk itself is onto port 0 and the storage hard disk is onto port 1, right? So this is supposed to be onto port 0, so it will be first, and then this goes onto port 1. And just in case it gives you an error menu when you are running the actual OS, the guest OS, just tick this, use host or IO cache to make sure everything runs smoothly and along those lines, okay? So we press OK. This should be it basically done. And now what we have to do is going to start and boot up our OS, right? So if everything goes according to plan, it should just boot up normally. It may just ask us to select the drive again, but let's just see. So it is launching right now. Okay, so it is asking us to select a startup disk. For me, I already have remember we mounted it earlier, so we'll have to just select it again, right, and press start. Now let's just see if it launches. Okay, it is loading files. Everything seems to be in order. Now let's just wait for it to initialize, which is this it should show like a looping. Yes, so it is looping. Let us wait. Okay, it seems to be working. Everything seems to be fine. Okay, so we are in Windows Server 2019. So just leave it as default. Doesn't really matter unless you speak a different language. You could switch to yours accordingly. So click next and click install now. Right, it should ask us for our hard disk, which we already created earlier by allocating about 20 gigabytes for this guest OS. But let us see. Setup is starting. I may just cut and come back when everything is finished. Okay, so it is asking us to pick our type, the sort of operating system we want to install. Let's just go with the default. Actually, no, let us do the desktop experience so we can get the full GUI. So it'll be easier for us beginners now. Okay, so if you're a beginner, click on the desktop experience. Right now, remember this is an evaluation copy. All the other copies I tried wasn't working, so I had to go with the evaluation copy, which has a time limit of about 180 days. So you may go alternative routes by getting, let's say, a crack copy or something, but I will be using the evaluation copy. So click next. That is the version we want to install. I accept the terms and license agreements. No, let's just for upgrade, if we have a previous version of Windows Server, we might want to go into upgrades, the upgrade category. But for now, let us just go into custom. This is for beginners. So we have, remember earlier we have allocated 20 gigabytes of space for this guest OS. So this is coming back into play now. Okay, so let's just click this driver and press next. If there's anything, I may cut and come back when everything is completed. Okay, so it is installing. I will cut and come back when everything has finished installing and stuff along those lines. So okay, so everything has finished installing. So what it would just ask you to do is probably just create some credentials like a password, as you can see here. So let us just create a password. not gonna show you guys, but everyone knows how to create a password, trust me. Okay, so everything has finished. I've created my password, and as you can see, this is the lock screen of Windows Server 2019. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you all. Many more videos to come. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.